Hey, it's Don. I've got another Q&A today. I've got a bolo right behind this. Bolo's already shot, so it should be up tomorrow. Maybe even today, but I probably tomorrow. I've got some questions here, so I thought I would go over that as I've said. Let's see here. Someone asking about cross-listing. Now, I'm going to have to go into the whole explanation of cross-listing for you because there's so much more involved if you're cross-listing. Person wants to know, when I'm cross-listing on eBay and Etsy and I sell an item on Etsy, do I just cancel that listing on eBay at that point? Will I get docked for doing that? Thanks again. And again, asking about the question A on that. What we did when we first started off cross-listing was we would actually list it on one site, limited items, due to quantity. Of course, we couldn't do it with all of our items, but we'd list certain items on eBay, and at the same time, we'd cross-list them on Amazon and on Discogs. Records we're talking about specifically to start with, but we do other items on cross-list. So basically, if it sells on one of those three sites, you're going to have to go to the other two sites and pull it down. It's the only way to do it without using another application. Now, with a third-party app like Sellbrite, you actually start all of your listings from the third-party app, Sellbrite. You can't list an item on eBay and then import it into Sellbrite and have it pull it down from any other site. It has to have originated on Sellbrite. It's the only way it works. And almost every other site that I've looked into does it the exact same way. So if you've got a third-party app, whatever it may be, you're going to have to originate the listing from the actual third-party app. So basically, with Sellbrite, I would create a listing in Sellbrite, and then from there, I could click a couple of buttons, and then when I want to promote it out, it will broadcast that listing out to eBay, Etsy, Discogs, whatever sites available on the third-party app that you're doing. So I can do Amazon now, Etsy, eBay, and my own site through the third-party app. Third-party app also allows you to own your own listing. So you can download a copy of everything from your listing, including the photos, all tied together. So it's just like you literally, everything's ready to go when you download it. Other than category issues and things like that that may not sync between eBay and Amazon, between eBay and Etsy, or eBay and Walmart, or whatever site that you decide to do this on. With the third-party app, though, if you list it on eBay and you cross-list it on Etsy through the third-party app, if it sells in one platform, it will automatically take it down from the other platform. You don't have to do anything. That was our bottleneck in the past, and that's why we're using a third-party app, because we only listed a couple thousand items on eBay, Amazon, Etsy, and Discogs, and a couple other places that we do sell on, because we would have to go in constantly and take stuff down every single day of the week. If I listed like paper items and postcards, I could be doing hundreds a week of those that I have to pull down. And one day I could end up having to pull down 100 from 2 or 3 different other sites. And practicality-wise and time-wise, it's just not possible. It's well worth the time, though, to pay $150 or whatever it may be for what you're doing to get a site, a third-party app that would cross-list it for you. Now, when I import these in from eBay, I have to delete them or end them on eBay itself and then re-promote them, re-propagate them back to eBay through Sellbrite. That way it originates in Sellbrite and it can pull it down from other sites. It's the only way to do it, unfortunately. So that's why the progress has been going slow, because I'm only doing batches at a time, because I have to import them. I don't want to waste money on eBay and end up ending everything and then sitting here and picking back and forth between which ones are straight, ready to go to another platform, and which ones aren't. So that's part of the philosophy on the whole cross-listing. So yes, if you're manually cross-listing something from eBay to Amazon or eBay to Etsy, when one sells on one platform, you will have to take it down manually, one by one, on the other platforms you have it on. Again, that's why we're going the third-party app. I think that's the best, in my opinion. I think a third-party app in general is the best way to do it. It's the only real practical way. I can't afford the time and the aggravation to sit here and pull down listings every single day of the week. On average, I'd be pulling down 50, 60 listings every single day. Some days, as I said, way more than that. It's just not practical to do it. So this way I can cross-list through a third-party app everything we own without ever having to worry about overselling an item, and especially because most of my items are scarce and rare. And with like cross-listing them on Amazon, Amazon's $39.99 is what I pay a month for Amazon. It doesn't matter how many things I have up. So if I cross list 50,000 items on Amazon, I'm going to get some sales from it. Hopefully a couple thousand based on, what we're doing now. So it should be a huge increase to our actual income once we get them all phased into there. Again, October is our deadline. That's where we're looking to actually cross list everything up by October. Hopefully ready by the third quarter. It's the only way I can see the functionality of this. Plus, it'll lower my cost down to almost nothing once we get everything listed. So hopefully that answers that question here. Let me touch just on a record-related issue. I've shown how to pack 78s. If you've got a folder of 78s, and I think this is for Rich here, he's talking about Bing Crosby. If you've got a folder from, say, Bing Crosby, literally what I'll do is I'll take the inside pages with the actual records, the folder inside, front and cover I won't touch right away, and I will wrap saran wrap bottom to top across the actual pages with the records in them. That will hold them flush together. Then I will actually take that same saran wrap and wrap it around the front cover. Now sometimes there's a little bit of a gap between the front cover and the actual record section themselves, or the back cover and the record section. I will stick one single piece of cardboard, the flaps that I show you in all my videos, either in the front or the back, to compensate for that. And then I wrap the rest in saran wrap just around the entire folder. I seal every point of it in saran wrap. I don't tape the saran wrap on there anymore. And then I will wrap saran wrap left to right or right to left, as well as top to bottom, as I said. And then you're just taking the same piece of cardboard and you wrap the cardboard around it just like it was a single record. It's all the only difference. That goes in the same box for us. I just don't cut it down. As you see, I've cut the boxes down in the video. So that's the only difference. I literally keep them in the sleeve. There's not much else you can do with those. Wouldn't want to take them out of the sleeve at all for a 78. Now, obviously, you see me doing the LPs. I take the records out. That's an LP. A 78, I would not do that for. I always send a 78 in a sleeve of some sort. If you don't have sleeves, you can put carefully newspaper around them. Something along that line is what I would say. What some people also do is grocery bags, the brown grocery bags, and they'll cut it up and make little folders out of them. If worst case scenario, you've just got a couple, take a 33 that's worth nothing, take the inner sleeve out, and just fold it around the record. That's what I've done in the past before we got into records heavily. So hopefully that answers that one on the 78 record there. We're going to show you at the end of this here. It's not a super long one today. I've had several questions on the Epson, the software. So I've got my Epson here. We're going to go to a screenshot in a minute, and at the end of this, of course. And I'm going to show you how to set this all up for scanning it. So we'll go over the settings. And another question here on listing records on Amazon. Now, I don't know if you need ungating for any kind of record on Amazon. I know if it's a collectible record, in the collectibles section, you need ungating. You can't just list in collectible records. If you're going to list a 78 record, I would say that would almost have to be in the collectibles records section, because the newer records are just going to be what people want to get just to listen to. I am ungated on both areas to sell records. I can sell new records too. I can sell CDs and DVDs and all that kind of stuff too. Again, I've been on for a very long time, so we've been grandfathered into some areas that many other people just probably wouldn't be able to get into. I don't know. I heard they weren't letting anybody else into CDs. I heard they weren't letting anybody else into DVDs. I don't know how true that is. But to sell those, you've got 500 records, it says here. I would just start with eBay and go from there, in my opinion. I've got thousands of records. It's not going to be a huge plus for the $40. I wouldn't do it. I would just see if you can't list them in just a normal section in the records without being ungated. Again, I'm not 100% sure on that. I wish I could be a little more sure on that, on your abilities to list those. I've had people tell me list stuff in the home section. I don't do that. I've got ungating, so I wish I could give you a better answer, but I don't know what answer to give you on that because, again, I'm ungated. I've been ungated for a long time. I don't even know what it looks like to be not ungated in those categories anymore because it's been so long. But I wouldn't do it personally if it was me. I would see if you can't list it as, again, maybe try home section. I've had other people tell me Amazon tells you home section. I know people who have been dinged or kicked off for listing in the wrong section, so I'm always hesitant to say that. I even got an email from somebody who said that specifically. I've gotten several, honestly. I can't tell you what's the right or wrong way. If you're talking to the ungating area on Amazon, they could tell you to list somewhere else. It doesn't mean it's the correct category to list it in, and it doesn't mean you won't get in trouble. Amazon has several different departments. If you're calling about an item-specific process of, being able to use something other than a UPC or something like that, you have to get permission for those. And that's one department. There's another department for like categories. There's another department for ungating. They're all different. They don't talk to each other from my personal experience. One person in one department has told me one thing. One person in another has told me something else. If you're not getting the answer from Amazon from a person in that category or in that specific thing they're doing, I wouldn't trust their judgment on it. Just because there's so many people that work at Amazon. They hire people off the street, even in other countries. So there's so many reasons why that stuff may not be right from one department to the other. It's just like eBay. I know so many people have said the same thing. You can call eBay any day of the week and get a different answer from different people constantly for the same exact issue. So just FYI on that one. But on that one, I wouldn't pay the $40 a month, in my opinion, if you're just starting off in records. You're not going to know the good ones. I would wait. I would start off on eBay, see how they go, make sure you're good on packing and all that kind of stuff, because 78s are as fragile as a piece of china. Bone china, feather china, really thin, fragile. It's shellac. It's not a solid piece. So if you ding it, the whole thing could crack on a record. So get yourself down in that way. Go through eBay to start. It's more strict on Amazon. If something is wrong, you're going to get dinged more so for it. Bad feedback could hit your metrics. It could tank you a little bit on Amazon. Just FYI, that's just my opinion on it. So I would wait, get these up on eBay. You can always go back and cross list them if they're not selling and go from there. Discogs in my book are mostly for 45s and LPs. At least that's what I do so much better on Discogs than on eBay. And they're usually like lower dollar stuff. So I wouldn't worry about cross-listing on Discogs right away. I would get yourself into the area on eBay first. Get your records up. See how they go. Make sure you understand the keywords and all the other issues. Make sure you got the cleaning down. Make sure you're getting good feedback on them and you got your grading right. You don't want to be wrong grading on Amazon. I can tell you right now, one bad ding on Amazon or a couple in record categories could sink you to the few people that do buy. Now, I do sell quite a few 78s, and they do sell for more on Amazon, but I've got a lot to sell, and I know specifics on them. I don't sell certain things in certain categories that are under a certain amount. I won't list the 78 unless I'm going to make probably close to $20 these days, just because it's not worth all the extra hassle in my book. So anyway, hopefully that answers that on there. Yeah, because she was told as well that there's a monthly fee. Yes. The minute you get ungated in a category, I don't care what category it is, you got to pay the $39.99 business account. You got to up it to a business account level. So that would mean you'd also probably want to make sure if you don't have a business license, you darn well get one. And if you don't have a tax ID number, that you get one immediately when you go on to Amazon. I've got tax IDs. I've got an EIN. I've got everything registered through the federal government in every area that I'm required to, trademarks, whatever else I do, my name, DBAs, those are all registered. Everything I do is registered. There's no way someone can say that I missed something, because I even talked to an accountant and a lawyer on a lot of what we do, the initial consultation and stuff. So, and again, we have a couple of accountants that work for us right now, one for labor and then one for taxes. So anyway, hopefully that answers that one on there. Let's see here. I got another question here on unbranded costume jewelry and jewelry in general. Unbranded, unmarked, I should say, jewelry, costume jewelry, does not sell as well as the branded stuff. So if you say have Lisner or Eisenberg or something on a piece of jewelry, obviously we all know those are all going to go for a ton more money. Now, if it's not branded, I won't mess with it unless it's something phenomenal or a big, gaudy, large piece, a pin, an animal, an anthropomorphic figure, something unique, a Halloween, Christmas. All of those are okay to buy unbranded. But if it's just a flower or a standard pin that's like this with some rhinestones on it, if there's no markings, I don't usually mess with it as much. It's going to sit for a very long time. If it's not marked, usually your best bet is to take a bunch of them that aren't marked and mix in a few that are and put in a lot and then pop those names into the title, the keywords of that listing. You'll have to put in a few good ones, and then the rest will be just, unmarked ones. Be careful, though, on some of the ones that you may think are unmarked. Look at them with a loupe. Sometimes the marking is actually on the pin, the metal steel pin that actually connects it, or you'd mount it to your clothing. So be careful on that. Again, the unbranded ones do not sell as well, I can promise you. Those are stuff I would sell on a lot. If it's an animal or something specific, like let's say it's a pug dog, but no name on it, that has potential not just in jewelry. You could sell that in the collectibles dog section under pugs, and you would probably sell it 10 times faster than if you just put that in the costume jewelry section. Don't just put dog if it's a dog pin. Don't just put cat. Put the type of animal that it is. Siamese cat, pug dog, dachshund, beagle, whatever it is, those will help sell it. Again, if it's a holiday, you can list it in the holiday section or the costume jewelry section. Most Halloween pins, most Christmas pins I will buy if they're 50 cents, $1 or less. The cheaper, the more chances I will have at buying them. You're not going to sell like a Santa Claus pin for $50 without a mark on it. You're not going to sell a Santa Claus pin unless it's early for a decent price without something else going on with it. So just keep that in mind. The subject matter is very important. Just rhinestone pins and stuff like that just aren't worth very much, unmarked, unbranded. Again, branding-wise, we're talking about the name, maker's mark, like a Hollycraft or something along that line. So, hopefully that helps with that one here. Let's pop over to the screen, and we are going to actually show you the scanner now as well, too. Okay, so here is the scanner app right here. This is the app for the scanner. I have something else open, so anyway. Now, all of your settings are either going to be under configuration. Well, let's look at this first one here. Auto detect size. Always set it up for auto detect. Turn off stitch images. Don't use that. Double-sided as well. I always use that. Correct document skew. I turn that off. You may not want to turn it off, but line them up straight and you should be fine no matter what. No rotate. Color images, and I always do 600 dpi. Always. And again, it automatically does on both sides the way you do it here. Now you could go into here and do dual image output and then change the settings in here. And you can do settings for output too. So this would change it. You could do it to color, black and white, whatever the case may be. I don't use this. I just set it up the same way. So it automatically scans both if you don't touch any of these settings here. There is an image adjust here. I don't mess with pretty much all of these. Skip blank pages. Now you can turn that on so it would skip them, but sometimes when I'm scanning things it has a plain back, and if I turn that off it's not going to go anywhere good. It'll just skip pages that I want to include. So on here too, I've left these at the default, brightness and contrast. Now, if it's dark on it, you can lower or raise the brightness and the contrast on it. Again, mine's set up. It's fine. I haven't had any issues. The one thing I would recommend everybody doing is cleaning it with some really good window cleaner. Very carefully, only the actual glass plates themselves. Clean it before you use it and clean it after you use it. So when it's sitting there and you're not being used, it's ready to go the next time. Those are the only two ones that I would recommend messing with are these two settings here. Edge fill. I do white on edge fill, and we'll show you what that is too as well in just a minute here. Now, if you wanted a black background because you're scanning white cards, you're going to do it here as well, an image adjustment. You can switch this off. You can click non-fill. I just use the white on this one here. That's what most people do. So that's basically the only settings on this section here. There are configuration settings here also. Now, if you want that border, margins around it, because let's say you scan it and you notice it's cutting off an edge or two on it. This is how you fix it. Crop margins for size is auto. Don't do that. Go up to 0.20. It's the highest you can go. This will go up and down, and you can adjust it how you want, but I always do it. That's a 1/5 of an actual inch is what it gives me all the way around the object from top to bottom. That's just the way I've done it. For all this. Crop margins for size. That's what I crop the margins for. On this section here, edge fill level, I've got, well, this one should be 0.08. Set these to 0.08. Oops, hang on just a second here. Okay, that's what I have these set at. It's always been just fine. The other thing here is detect double feed. This is another thing that you want to actually click on. That way, if two cards are being slid through at the same time because it pulled them through, it will automatically detect it and kick it out. So at the end of the day, you're not coming back and realizing, hey, it didn't catch it, and I've got to go back and scan those couple images here. Now, this is here too, binding position. I don't worry about this. What this does is it means it binds it. It assumes that everything's going to be bound to the left-hand side of your item. So that's what I do with that one there. You don't have to mess with that. If you're worn to wear, you can actually adjust it. Standard, if you do it on this scanner, you can actually scan something with a staple in it on a standard. Now, I wouldn't recommend doing that. I missed one once. Thank goodness it didn't scratch the glass, but that's your problem if it does. Now, if you're doing thin pieces of paper, you can change it to thin, but standard is what you want for your postcards themselves. Anything postcard thickness or trade cards. I don't use the remove punch holes either, because if it has a hole in it, I want them to be able to see that the hole is there. Color slip reduction, I don't mess with any of these other settings. Work area, I don't mess with any of these settings as well. Now, quality preview you can do on the previews here. I don't mess with any of this stuff as well. Again, this section I just use for the cropped borders and margins on here, edge fill levels and all of that. If you set yours the same way, you will have a border around it so that it won't cut off any of your card ever. So no matter what shape it is, it adds that 0.2 crop margin around it, as well as the 0.08 for the actual fill levels on the outside. So hopefully that makes sense on those. The only other options that you need to mess with here are under here. Now, I don't mess with this one here. Unfortunately, it doesn't save it, so when you reopen the program, you'll have to do it again. I don't mess with any of these, the dialog box. I know what I want anytime I do it. You need to make sure that you change this off from PDF to JPEG. And then you can change what file naming system you want. It'll just add a number if you want it. You can save it anywhere you want. I usually save mine to a chip. And I usually save it to either the server, a chip, or a laptop or something like that. So once you get done with those settings, that's all there is to it. Now, if you're having issues with it looking grainy, most of the time it's because of the DPI, because when you blow it up, you want it at a higher DPI. So I talk about the zoom-ins. You have to do it at least, say, 400 DPI. I do 600. It works perfectly fine for me. It doesn't bother me. It takes a few seconds more if you're doing hundreds of them, but other than that, there's not really any time difference in it either. So again, 600 DPI, that allows you to blow it up 4 or 5 times in many cases larger than life on eBay. So when they're zooming in, they can see it, and that's my main photo for it. Again, you can just look at the settings I have here, and these are literally what I use for everything. If yours doesn't look good with these specific settings, maybe there's a possibility that there's something wrong with it. Double check the software as well. Make sure you've downloaded the correct software from the website. Epson does offer free software, free drivers for this. The program here that I'm using is Epson Scan. That is what you want to do. Now, I don't know, maybe you're using something else and maybe that's part of the issue. But with the Epson DS510, and I think the other one is a DS640. There's 2 versions of the Epson. This version, the DS510, which is what I'm using and which this Epson Scan works for, and then the newer one, which is a 600 series of some sort. It's the same basic scanner, it's just the new model versus the old model, and they do use Epson Scan. Epson Scan will work for any of the duplexes that Epson makes that I would recommend, and I would only use Epson Scan if I haven't said that yet. Any of the other scan programs that I have seen just don't cut it. Epson Scan is tied in there, and I believe when you downloaded it, it downloads something else from Epson, which actually helps it work a little better, if I remember right. So that's it. That's all there is to the settings on this. Again, if it's not coming out great, worst case scenario, sometimes it's going to have some differences between the front and back. So maybe the front looks great and the back is a little dark. I just readjust them on eBay. Well, not me specifically, but who's ever listing the item. So again, it doesn't have to fix it specifically in the scanner. Again, I showed you how to go back in there. You can adjust the images and things like that too as well, just by going in the image adjustment as I showed you before. And you can adjust the brightness and the contrast. Again, I try to keep that all at 0 in all honesty. But again, just use the Epson Scan if you're not using this. Download it from the site, Epson Scan. It does everything. It's the one that I use. But if there is an issue, as I said, just adjust it a little bit in eBay if worst case scenario. The eBay autocorrect don't use the manual versions of everything you do to adjust it. When you're scanning, it's doing one standard setup for the front and back. So the front may be correct and the back may be off, or the back may be correct and the front may be off. There's not a bunch you can do about it without going in and messing with the other settings in here. And I just haven't had as much luck messing with the extra settings. So this is what I just do for everything. And again, as I said, just go back in and correct it on eBay if you need be. You can't fix every single issue. Probably 90% of all cards or pieces of paper that I scan, I don't have to mess with them once they hit eBay. Again, 10% though, I do have to probably adjust through eBay's photo adjustment or improvement section, enhancements, or whatever you want to call it. Hopefully that gives the info on that there for you. But as always, I'm here to help, so just let me know if there's anything else I can do for you. I will be on Patreon today. Obviously, I will be checking any questions, comments, or answers you need, and we will help you out the best I can. So again, have a good day, and I thank you all as always.